Hello my friends, today we are on Lightroom Classic and we will edit this butterfly image I took a few days ago. We will edit it from this into this. So let's get right into it. As you can see, this is my raw image over here. There's a raw. I took it with my Sony A1 90mm lens, 1/200 f8. And yep, first thing I would like to do is go to develop and crop my image. For this one, I like to do an 8x10, and then I will move my butterfly more onto the right side. That way, because it's facing towards the left, I want to leave some room in there to, have a way to go. So I like that crop over there. Say okay. Now, the way I would edit this image, I will not use any kind of global adjustments. I will do it all with local adjustments. That means I will be using a lot of masking. First thing I like to do is mask my butterfly and work on my butterfly separately. To do so, Lightroom has an amazing masking tool, and that is a select subject, and it will find my butterfly. Just like that, we selected our butterfly. It even got the antenna, so that is amazing. With my butterfly selected, first of all, I would like to increase the exposure just because I want the butterfly to stand out. So something like that looks good. I would also like to add some contrast. I'll take the highlights down a little bit, maybe -42. That looks good. I will open up the shadows. Something like that looks good. Then I would like to add a little bit of white and take down the black just to create a little bit of contrast. And that looks great. I would also like to add some texture to it. And also some clarity. And a little bit of dehaze, it's going to help. Something like that, not too much. You don't want to go crazy with the dehaze because that can ruin your image. You see, if I go a lot higher, it just makes it look really funny. So I like to stay under 10. I'll keep it on 8 for this one. So that is our butterfly. Now I want to work with my background. So I'll click on this plus icon to create a new mask. I will select my subject again. And this time I will go to these 3 dots over here and I will invert my mask. So now I'm selecting everything else but the butterfly. For this background, let's see, what do we want to do? The first thing we want to do, I want to take the temperature into the blues because I don't like my greens when they're too yellow. I like them to be a little bit cooler tone. So I am going down on the temperature, something like -24, and that looks good. And then I also want to add some green into it. So I'll take this down to something like that. Let's see. And this is our before and after so far, before and after. You see how my background is cooler? I can just do this eyeball on the last mask. And, oops, turn it back on. All right. What else do I want to do to the background? We did the temperature. I want to take the exposure down a little bit. Not too much. Something like that. Then I will take the texture down because I want to soften out the background. So with the texture, clarity, and dehaze, you can add contrast by moving the sliders to the right, but you can also take away contrast by moving it to the left. So we'll go with texture -17. I will go with clarity, something along the same, like -16. And dehaze, I will take it down as well, and I am going, let's see, -16. And that softened my background a little bit. Let's see this again. This is our before. You see it's more contrasted, it's more yellow, and this is our after. Now I want to apply one more mask, so I'll go back to, you know what, I'm looking at this flower and I think I want this center of the flower to not be so desaturated and kind of stand out a little bit with my butterfly. So what I will do into my second mask, where I have selected the background but not the butterfly, I will click on it and I will subtract. That means I'm taking away, and I will use a brush to take away some of these edits onto my flower. And I want to make sure that auto mask is clicked. That means it will have a little bit of edge awareness. And now I'm just painting onto the center of the flower just to bring back some color there, because I feel like it was looking a little bit dead. So just like that, we are bringing back some definition into that flower and some color. Great. And I think that looks better. Now I want to create a third mask. So click on the plus again, and this time I will just use a radial gradient. And I want to create like a vignette. So I will make a gradient something like this. But what I want to happen, I want the effect to happen on the outside of my gradient, not the inside. So let's see. I have to inverse it. For that, it's to invert it. So I'll go to my mask tree over here, go to the dots and say invert mask tree. And now we are selecting everything outside of my butterfly, not the butterfly. So now with this mask, what do we want to do? As I said, I want to create a vignette. So for that, I'll take the exposure down quite a bit. I'll go to -120. And you see how the butterfly just stands out now. If I turn off this mask, you see, and I turn it back on, that just makes a big difference. So I turn down the exposure. I also want to take down the highlights quite a bit. Something like that. And then I want to move the blacks into the right side. You see, if I move it to the right, I'm lifting the black, so it's not so contrasty. So I want to go somewhere around maybe 16, 17, something like that. Let's see our image so far. We started with this and we ended up with this. This is the before, this is the after. Now to finish this image, I would like to take it into Photoshop. For that, I will go Command E to send it into Photoshop. And there is two things I want to do into Photoshop. One, I want to sharpen the butterfly to make it really nice and sharp. And then I also want to blur the background a little bit more, create a little bit more depth. To do so, I will click Command J to duplicate my layer. To sharpen it, I will go to Filter, Other, High Pass. And I will put the little square icon on the eyeball of the butterfly, because that's what I want to make sure is the most sharp. And then you choose a radius. You do not want to see much color or you'll get halos. So maybe 2 radius is good for this. I will click OK, and then I will change the blending mode to overlay. So now if I zoom in, let me zoom in at 100%. And you see how sharp the butterfly is. Look, if I turn this layer on and off, this is the before and this is after. Look here on the wing, look at the eye. This is the before, this is the after. Command 0 to fit to screen. Now I don't want to apply the sharpness everywhere. I just want it on the butterfly. So holding down Option and clicking on the mask will create a mask that is black. If you're not familiar with masking in Photoshop, black hides and white reveals. So now we're hiding the whole sharpening effect that we did. And then I will take a brush from over here, or click B for the brush. And then with white color, you see right now I'm having black in the foreground, but if I click X, it will toggle between the black and the white. If you have different colors here and you want to get back to your black and white, just click D for default, and that will reset the swatches. And with a white paintbrush, I will just paint onto my butterfly. And that way I will reveal this sharpness just onto my butterfly. Something like that. And that is good. Now I will flatten my image. Let me just close this dialog. To flatten your image, you right click on your layer and flatten image, and then Command J to duplicate it again. And this time I want to create that, blurred background. For that, I will use an action. I have an action over here called Turner. If you want to get this action, I have a whole video about this action and where to get it. So go find that. I think it's called my favorite action in Photoshop. And I will click play. and say continue, and that will soften the image and darken it a little bit, adding a little bit of contrast. I really like that action. I use it a lot. You see how beautiful it did on the background? This is the before, this is the after, this is the before, this is the after. That looks great, but I do not want to soften my butterfly. So what can we do about that? Well, I will click onto my background where my butterfly is, and then I'll go on this quick selection tool and I'll click select subject. And Photoshop will do its best to find my subject. There you go. And let's see, I'll delete this mask because I don't need it. And now with my selection, I'll just go to masking, and now we're creating a mask. But as you can see, it created a mask where my butterfly is visible because it's white. So the effect is happening only on the butterfly, not the background. I wanted the other way around. So to do that, I'll do Command I, and that will invert my mask. Now my background is blurred beautifully and my butterfly is sharp, but the selection was not perfect, and I do want to feather this selection in so it's not so abrupt where the butterfly is so sharp and the background is so blurry. So with a brush with white on my brush, I will just go around the edges and just kind of blur the edges a little bit. I'll only go with the very edge of my brush where it is very feathered, and just like that, it just makes it blend in a little bit better. And then I will take black, I'll click X to toggle between, and really paint on the eye. Make sure my eye stays sharp and I did not go with the white brush over it by accident. And like that, we are getting a really nice result. And this is how I would edit this image in Lightroom Classic and a little bit of Photoshop. I hope this was helpful and you learned something new. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Skylar Ewing, and I'll see you in my next video.